Charlotte's News Talk 1110 WBT at 99.3 FM and WBT.com.
That's the Basin Street Blues. Yeah, man. That's the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. Right down there in St. Peter, New Orleans. And there ain't nothing like that anywhere else in the world. And there ain't no other sound like that is more American. Uniquely American. That's root music.
This is Rona, the
Hey, Ron.
for the Preservation Hall Band. How you doing?
I am well. Well, good to have you with us, Ron.
It's a pleasure, man. How's it going today?
It's going great, and you guys are busy down there.
Yeah, it's a really great time right now.
And it's a Friday night on top of everything.
It's a Friday night. Yeah, things are kicking here at the hall. I love it.
Hey, tell us, I'm sure folks have heard of Preservation Hall. Give some folks a little history of what Preservation Hall is, where it came from, and how it came to be what it is today. Sure.
Well, Preservation Hall has been here in the heart of the French Quarter of New Orleans since 1961. And what it is, it's a cornerstone for New Orleans' most treasured music, which is New Orleans-style traditional jazz. And what happened was, I could go on for days, the story could go on forever, but in short, in the 1960s there in New Orleans, there weren't a lot of places that people could go to hear this music. In the 60s, rock and roll was popular, and
sure, and everything started becoming electrified.
Right. And a lot of these jazz greats, they've been around since, some of them, the turn of the century. There just wasn't a place for them to play. A lot of them, a lot of the greats at the time. I mean, you can go down the list like George Lewis, Billy and Dee Dee Pierce. All these folks didn't have a venue to play. And when Ben's parents, Alan and Sandra Jaffe, opened the place in 1961, they provided a venue and a place where people could hear this native music, and we've been doing it every night since then.
How big of a facility is it for folks who haven't been there?
Yeah, it's a very small room. It's a very humble little room.
It's not only small, but you're literally right on top of the musicians. It's almost like an expanded living room. It has that sort of warmth to it. And of course, it's an old building in the French Quarter, so a lot of history just in those walls.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at maximum capacity, it's about 100 people. We just have a few benches in there, and like you said, it is a living room feel. And then one of the coolest things about it is that we don't serve drinks, we don't serve food, and so it's an all ages experience, and we like to think it's one of the few pure musical experiences left on the earth.
And as I was saying earlier, it's uniquely American because the cradle of jazz, which is the one true form of American music that is, uniquely American. The cradle of jazz is New Orleans. That's where all those elements came. I spent a lot of time down in New Orleans. I spent a lot of time in St. Louis. From New Orleans, that music went up the river to St. Louis and Nashville and Kansas City. And I remember in St. Louis, that was the home of Stark Music Publishers, which was Scott Joplin's publisher. There was an old music store down in St. Louis, long gone, but they'd been in business since the 1800s, called Hunlith Music. And I had a 1920s band back in those days, back in St. Louis. And we raided the basement of Hunlith Music and bought out all the original old 1920s hot jazz arrangements. So New Orleans inspired.
Absolutely.
And then when you peel back the layers, Kansas City sort of had its own style of jazz. Chicago developed its own style of jazz. As the black population started migrating north, they brought their music with them. They'd send back to New Orleans for some folks to entertain them. And that's how that music started spreading. Am I wrong?
Correct. You're absolutely correct. And I think the important thing that we tried to get across is that in addition to preserving this very treasured music that we have, we also look to perpetuate it, and to nurture it. It's not we're not recreating an antique. This music is, to this day, absolutely evolving.
And it's very much alive and breathing. The one thing about New Orleans music is there's nothing clinical about it. There's blood and breath in every note. It is that feel, that loose feel in between the notes that just kind of gets to you, that this is not clinical. This is alive.
Yeah, and it's been interesting because in New Orleans, music is woven into the very fabric of our everyday lives here. You can't go a day without hearing music or experiencing music on some level. Whether it's we bury our people to music. We have funerals, we have people playing music.
Oh, and those processions, those funeral processions, are famous in the tunes they use historically, and the tunes they use going to the cemetery, and then the tunes they use coming back are very different. Almost like a funeral dirge feel going to the cemetery, and coming back. There's a celebratory feeling of, that put our lives back together. There's such a cultural history behind it. I'm telling you stuff you already know, but I just eat this up, as you can tell.
Oh, and so do we. We never get tired of it. We really don't.
As I say, the music evolves. When you hear Chicago jazz, that has a sound. You hear Kansas City jazz, that has a sound. New York jazz has a sound. The West Coast jazz developed a sound. I'm talking about all traditional jazz sounds. But as you start peeling back the layers of all of those, you can see that the nucleus, the center, the heartbeat of all of those sounds comes from New Orleans. And when you peel it all back, the true New Orleans heartbeat music is what you folks are playing down there in Preservation Hall.
Absolutely. And we also take it around the world. We have the Preservation Hall Jazz Band tours, in excess of 200 dates per year, from anywhere from New York to Thailand, which they just got back from.
And you were just up in Boone, I hear, right?
Yeah. The band was playing in Boone. It's interesting. We're doing a project with the Del McCurry Band, which is actually Appalachian music at heart. Yeah. And right now, the Preservation Hall Jazz Band is collaborating with the Del McCurry Band, and we just did the short beginning of what we're calling the American Legacies Tour, which is the two bands together.
Wow.
And the bands were in Boone. They were also in Durham and Raleigh.
Well, come on now. How about Charlotte?
Absolutely, yeah.
If for no one else, just for me, I'll round up an audience.
I'm sending an email to our agent right now.
Well, it's music that makes you feel good. It's music that speaks to your heart, not just your ears. And that's what I love about it. There's a humanity, an underlying humanity in this music that exists in no other music that I know of.
Absolutely, it's a very individual expression, and one of the fun things about it is, one key word there is fun. With all love to a lot of different forms of jazz and whatnot, we'll play a lot of jazz festivals, and it's really cool that we're representatives of the fun jazz, of the good feeling jazz. Yep. And sometimes it's unfortunate that I think a lot of the jazz audiences as the years go on, they equate it with a very kind of intellectual kind of thing. But once you get in front of New Orleans jazz bands or a lot of traditional jazz bands, you realize that it's a very lively music.
I want to play a little bit of something special, and I don't want to tip what is so special about it, but there's something happening at midnight tonight.
Hell yeah.
No matter where you are, if you can get to a computer, you can be a part of this. I want to play just a little hint of it. Go ahead. You may recognize the lead vocal. If you think you know who it is, 704-570-1110. This is a live performance. Preservation Hall Jazz Band, New Orleans. A big fine thing. If you know who that is, 704-570-1110. Who's that singing? We're going to come back with Rona from Preservation Hall Jazz Band.
Where Charlotte comes to talk.
And we're gonna answer the question. 704-570-1110 if you know who that is, and we're gonna tell you exactly why you might want to know. Wayne Powers in for Hancock. Lots more to come.
WBT. Crater Media, Charlotte.